second video, Sunday, November 26th. Today I'm going to be going over my predictions for Monday. This is not financial advice and I'm not a financial advisor. I'd like to start by saying that, and we're going to get right into the video. So the first thing I want to go over is a simple theory that I have. It's called the rising spring and the falling spring, and we're going to be using this later so you can see why I think we're going to be going where we're going on Monday and following that in the following week. So the rising spring is a very simple theory. It starts with something like this here in the chart, and I'm just going to draw it out so you can see it pretty quickly. So we're going to draw a level off right here. Now, the rising spring works like this. When the price reaches a certain area and the volume starts to increase on your down candles, we start to have some buying pressure, right? So the buying pressure is starting to increase on this down move right about here. And you can see that by the increase in volume, right? So the volume is more or less about the same here, and immediately following the price starts to rise. Okay, so this is a first indication that the buyers have stepped in. Now, normally when this happens, if the price is to continue upwards, we won't have a consolidation in the same area with high volume. The consolidation will happen at a slightly higher level before it continues upwards, and if it continues in the same region, usually the price will head downwards. So if this is our first spring here and we have a little bit of a higher volume, if we continue on after we move up, when we come back down to that same level, we get another test right here in this area. Now, if you look at the volume in this area, the volume is slightly less. So for me, this is a good indication because there is some more consolidation, accumulation happening right here in this sideways accumulation. So someone's adding to a position here. Now, after they've added to a position here, you can see that it's slightly higher than this area here. Now, this would be considered the second area of accumulation. Now, the next area of accumulation would be on any further spikes of volume. The next spike in volume happens right here, and as you can see, it is higher than the previous two springs. So 1, 2, 3, the rising spring. Okay, so usually after the rising spring, we get a nice move to the upside. Now this happens quite often. You'll see it in a lot of places here, here, here. Now there was a down move over here where the price dropped, and I could go over that and explain why that happened, but that's not what we're going over today. I just wanted to quickly explain the rising spring to you. Now we're going to go to the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, we can see why we had this move to the upside. If you look here, after we made this downwards move, we had the large increase in volume as we made a further downwards move. And with that increase in volume, it's just an increase in buying pressure. So the spread of the candles, the length of the candles is shorter. And when you have a shorter candle like this with a higher volume, there's an increase in buying pressure, right? So as we get an increase in buying pressure, now this is a good sign because there's less volume than previously here. So for me, that's always a good sign when there's a little bit less volume following a spring. When it tests the same region, there's only two ways to go about it for me in a bullish scenario. If there's less volume on the following in the same area, or we have an increase in volume or about the same volume as long as the spring is rising above the previous spring before the price moves upwards. Okay, so going to our most recent time frame on the S&P 500 SPY ETF. Now I'm bullish for the following week and moving forward, and I'm gonna explain those reasons why. So for starters, as we've had this downwards move here into this area, as we've head back up into this territory, an increase in volume would be a scenario where I think we would start to head down, because as we reach this high here, we would want to see a very large increase in volume for this to be heading to the downside, right? So an increase in volume would just indicate that there's a lot of supply. So To find the supply, we would be looking for a narrow spread candle, a short candle with an extremely high volume near the top of a range. Okay, so you can see that we're pretty close to the top of this range, but you've seen that the volume has dropped off. Now, with this volume dropping off, excuse me, that's a scenario where I believe that there is not so much supply present here. I believe during this last move here to the downside, there was a lot of accumulation on the way down, and you can see that right here because we have a very narrow spread bearish candle with an extremely high volume, which indicates some buying pressure happening here. So this is the buying pressure that we had on the way down. So there was a position accumulated here, maybe from the same buyer who made this move here, right? So we head down and then we have a very high increase in volume right here, probably the highest in the area. And with that increase in volume, that shows that the buyers have stepped in. So the buyers have stepped in, and immediately following, the price starts to rise. Now, as we reach this top area, the volume drops off a cliff. So I believe that going forward on the weekly time frame, this is why we're going to continue bullish. We're going to continue bullish until we start to see some narrow spreads with a very high increase in volume. So possibly this week, 463 higher, maybe we're going to break our high, our all-time high here. On this chart, it shows 467.13. So I believe that within the next couple of weeks, we could possibly hit over 470. Now, if we move down to the 30-minute time frame, I've got it without the extended hours. So we're just going to look at the last 2 days specifically, and we're going to use a little VSA to analyze what's happening here. So when we speak about VSA, we're always looking to see what is happening in the background, right? Because the background is always going to tell us what's going to happen moving forward. So as we moved up into this range, we have a very large spike in volume here, okay? And this very large spike in volume could indicate that there is a massive amount of supply overhead. So this is a very bearish sign. And then on this 30-minute time frame, immediately following this bearish sign, we have a pretty decent high amount of volume on a green candle here. Now, on these green candles, usually we get a lot of limit buying pressure or limit buys happening. So it's pretty interesting. It's kind of like a flip-flop. So we have a lot of supply, and then all of a sudden we have a lot of accumulation following it, right? Now, this accumulation could be a mix of a lot of supply from people who are scared of this move here, and also a lot of accumulation from people who know what's going to be happening, right? And that's why we get this down move here with a high amount of volume, which could just be a slight rising spring here, because we have a decrease in volume here, and then immediately following this, the price rises again, okay? So now moving forward in this range, the reason for my bullish case is that as we rise above this, I'm just going to draw a little line here in the middle. As we rise above this line, usually when you see an increase in supply, you'll see green candles with a high amount of volume, indicating that there are people trying to get out of a position. But as we rise above this area, we have a decrease in volume. We have decrease in volume. So this is telling me that there is not actually too much supply in this range. There might be quite a bit more supply up here, but in the short term, no one's looking to sell in this range. There's not too much supply. So as we continue forward, we get another spring here, and the volume is quite high, actually, but we don't tap beneath the low of this candle here. So this right here is a good sign that there is more accumulation happening, and we have a confirmation on the following candle when the price rises. So as the price rises, this for me is considered a rising spring going forward. Yeah, with this rising spring and no supply happening on these green candles overhead, it's a pretty good sign for me. So let's keep going forward. And then right here, this would be a third part of this rising spring. So this rising spring, you can see a massive increase in volume on this red candle here. Now, this could be an indication of two things. There could be a lot of supply being sold off right here, but it doesn't really make sense for them to be selling off a lot of supply here because they had the opportunity here, 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 here. So they had an opportunity to sell at a higher price and they didn't. So this in my mind is most likely a lot of limit buy orders that were set, which is why we have a super high amount of volume. So a lot of limit buy orders that were set ready to go for the next leg up. So 1, 2, and 3. So, and we have a confirmation after each little area here. We get a move up, and a move up. Now, as we start to head a little bit lower, we have a definite decrease in volume. So I love to see a decrease in volume when heading into areas that were recently with much higher volume. So we had very high volume here, pretty high volume here, pretty high volume here, and very high volume here. And as the price heads lower into that area, we do get a slight increase in volume, but not much at all. So this is a great sign for me that we are going to be heading bullish. And if we look at the weekly time frame, as I said before, with this very large decrease in volume, I believe that there is not too much overhead supply here. And I think that we're going to be heading up. And as we all know, the last couple of weeks, short sellers have been massively burned. So I don't think too many people are going to be shorting the market right now heading into Christmas. So that's my theory for the coming week. The hour time frame, all about the same, guys. That's it for my video. If you liked my content, you like what I had to say, please smash the like button and subscribe. I'm just getting started on YouTube. I hope to make a lot more videos. I'm going to be on here as much as I can, and I'm going to be going live Monday morning, doing some real-time analysis with VSA, explaining why the market moves, the way it moves, how it moves, and what might be happening in real time. Thanks very much. Have a great day. Bye.